Everyone in the village thought Oluchi feared nothing, until the night she sealed her soul to a man who had nothing to offer but darkness. By dawn, even the gods whispered her name with pity. If Oluchi had known the truth about the man she chose, she would have run barefoot into the forest. But by the time she learned, the magic had already swallowed her future. Before we continue, if you haven't already, kindly hit the like button and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories coming to life. In the early 1990s, the quiet African town of Ehikioha lay between two ancient forests that whispered secrets whenever the wind passed through their towering trees. At dawn, harmattan mist hung low over the red earth roads. Women pounding yam kept a steady rhythm, children ran barefoot through the dust, and smoke from early morning fires curled lazily into the pale sky. In this town lived two young women whose lives would become a tale often retold by elders beside the moonlit fires. One was Amora, a 25-year-old whose gentle spirit warmed even the coldest heart. Her eyes were always calm, always noticing small details, how the wind bent the grass, how a child's laughter rose, how an elder's burden showed in their steps. She walked with humility, her simple blue wrapper swaying like water around her. Whenever she greeted others, her smile softened the air. The other was Oluchi, 27, tall and impossibly beautiful. She wore colors that screamed for attention, golden reds, shimmering fabrics that captured the sun. Her steps were sharp, her chin high, her gaze dismissive. Children hid when she passed, adults lowered their voices. Her beauty was breathtaking, but her pride walked ahead of her. People whispered that Oluchi had no need for kindness because she had found another way to bend life to her will. At night, behind the walls of her mother's mud house, she lit clay pots filled with strange blue flames. Dried herbs dangled from the ceiling, giving off a bitter smell. She chanted softly, her voice low and serpentine. Men fell for her quickly, too quickly. They brought goats, coins, jewelry, only to be rejected with a mocking smile once she had taken what she desired. Her victims found themselves dizzy, confused, unable to resist her pull. Those who proposed marriage found themselves humiliated in public as she laughed at them. But Amara was different. Men admired her too, many came with gifts and hopeful words. She turned them down gently when she wasn't interested. Her rejections never wounded, they soothed. She always bowed slightly and said, "I am honored, but I must decline." The town believed one girl walked with grace, and the other walked with a shadow. One hot afternoon, a shiny dark blue Mercedes-Benz rolled into Ehikioha, raising clouds of red dust. Children ran after it, shouting with excitement. Villagers stared in disbelief, such a car had rarely been seen in their simple community. When the doors opened, a tall man stepped out with a confident smile and fingers heavy with gold rings. He introduced himself as Mr. George, a wealthy trader who claimed to travel the world. A sharp, expensive perfume surrounded him like an invisible shield. He flashed money with ease, speaking loudly, laughing loudly, charming everyone around. But there was something about his smile, too wide, too rehearsed. Amora noticed it instantly. The way his eyes darted, the way he laughed to fill silence, the way he scratched his wrist nervously, small things only observant eyes would catch. Oluchi saw him, and her eyes widened in hunger. This was a man she believed worthy of her charms. She flipped her hair, smiled with calculated sweetness, and watched him with the confidence of someone who believed the world owed her its riches. Mr. George quickly showed another side to the town during evenings at the palm wine joint near the forest edge. Lanterns swung in the wind as he drank heavily and made a show of his wealth. One night, he embarrassed Mr. Kolu, the humble schoolteacher who sat quietly grading papers. Mr. George slapped bundles of money on the table and said loudly, "Teacher Kolu, you and poverty are like twins who cannot be separated." The men around laughed, though some looked uncomfortable. Mr. Kolu lowered his eyes, his face tightening with quiet humiliation. From across the compound, Oluchi laughed loudly, bending toward Mr. George with exaggerated admiration, hoping to impress the man she believed destined for her. Amora saw everything. Her heart clenched with empathy, and her eyes filled with disappointment. That night, she found Mr. Kolu sitting alone beneath a mango tree, wiping his glasses with trembling hands. She knelt beside him and said softly, "Your worth is not measured by your pockets. You are a good man." Her words soothed him more than she realized. But Oluchi had already made up her mind. Under the full moon, carrying herbs and charms, she walked to the edge of the forest where the trees stood tall like ancient judges. She lit a small fire that released a thick purple smoke. The air smelled of crushed leaves and something darker. She placed a charm into the flames and whispered, "Bind him to me. Blind him from truth. Seal my fate with his wealth." The wind rose sharply, scattering leaves in a circle around her feet. The fire glowed green, something any wise elder would have recognized as a warning. But Oluchi saw only victory. The next day, Mr. George began following her like a man lost in his own shadow. He looked at her with softened eyes, obsessed and eager. She pretended kindness, her voice sweet and smooth, but her eyes glittered with triumph. Inside, she saw not a man, but a gateway to riches. Meanwhile, Mr. Kolu gathered courage and approached Oluchi one afternoon in the village square. He presented a simple handcrafted ring, his hands shaking as he spoke. Oluchi laughed so loudly that the nearby women turned. "You," she scoffed. "A teacher. What can you give me besides chalk dust and poverty?" Her laughter echoed painfully through the square. Mr. Kolu's face fell, his lips trembled. He turned away, humiliated beyond words. Amora saw it all. She walked to him and gently wiped a tear from his cheek. "You are a man of value," she whispered. "Do not let cruelty blind you to that." Days later, under the big mango tree, Mr. Kolu proposed to Amara. Nervous and stammering, he held out the same ring he once offered Oluchi. Amara looked at him with warmth and said softly, "Let me think about it." "I am honored." And she meant it. Then came the moment Oluchi had been preparing for. She performed the final ritual, sealing her blood to Mr. George's name. The wind roared violently. The trees shook as though trying to speak. But she ignored every warning. They married quickly. The town celebrated, though some elders murmured with unease. At first, Oluchi believed she had won the gods' game. She moved into Mr. George's large house at the edge of town. But slowly, everything began to fall apart. Furniture started disappearing. Servants stopped coming. Creditors arrived at the gate daily, shouting. The expensive car was taken away. The once lavish house grew emptier and colder. One evening, Oluchi confronted her husband, shaking with rage. "Where is your wealth?" she demanded. George laughed bitterly. "Wealth? I borrowed to impress people. You thought I was rich? You never asked questions. You saw gold and followed blindly." Her knees buckled. She collapsed onto the dusty floor, screaming. The charm she trusted had bound her not to wealth, but to ruin. Her beauty seemed to dim in that moment. Her confidence withered. She lay there trembling, realizing she had sealed her fate with lies. While her world fell apart, the village celebrated a different story. Government vehicles arrived with loud sirens. An announcement spread like wildfire. Mr. Kolu had been appointed Commissioner for Education. Joy filled the streets. Women danced, children sang, and elders blessed his name. He rode through the village in an official car, and when he stepped out, Amora's smile greeted him, warm, radiant, full of quiet pride. When he asked her again to marry him, she nodded, tears of joy in her eyes. Their wedding became a symbol of grace, humility, and patience rewarded. Months later, Oluchi returned to the village. She was no longer the proud, radiant beauty who had once walked with her head high. Her wrapper was faded, her step slow. Her eyes avoided the gaze of everyone she passed. She saw Amora and Mr. Kolu stepping out of the commissioner's vehicle. Shame washed over her so strongly she felt her knees weaken. She lowered her head, expecting mockery. But Amora approached her gently. She placed a compassionate hand on Oluchi's shoulder. "You will rise again," Amora said softly. "But only if you walk with humility." The wind blew gently, rustling through the twin forest as though the gods themselves nodded in agreement. And so the villagers learned, and retold for generations. No one is wiser than the gods. Pride leads even the strongest to ruin. But humility lifts the heart into grace. If you haven't liked and subscribed to the channel yet, please do so as to receive notification when captivating African folktales content are uploaded. It just takes a moment, and it means the world to the channel.